Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Build Muscle and Burn Fat podcast. It's actually been a while since I've done a solo podcast. It may seem like that to me because it's true, but for you guys maybe not, because I release these episodes once per week now. Every so often I do twice per week, and I hope you've been enjoying it. The last few weeks I did a case study, then I've done some interviews with some friends who have shed some light on what they do to really keep balance with their health and fitness and on deeper mindset parts as well. Now we're going to bring it back to the true roots of this podcast because I've had some amazing questions put through, and even saying that from some of my existing clients too, so I guarantee that you are going to have one of these help you out as well. So today's podcast is actually going to be very simple. It's what would I recommend for beginners out there? Because maybe you have started at a New Year's resolution, maybe you have finally have a change in your season of your life, maybe you're starting to do the New Year's resolution and you're starting to slip a little bit. So the question for today that I got from Instagram that was the most common was, where should I start if I'm a complete beginner, or where should I start if I am beginning again? Now, I don't mind the background, it looks a little bit messy, but I'm trying to keep it as authentic as possible if you happen to be watching this on video. If you're not, well, here to listen to my voice again. I hope you enjoy it. It's been a little while since I've done this, and hopefully I am not very scratchy or rusty, should I say, with this. So this is going to be for those people who are looking to start again. Maybe you used to train back in the day. Maybe you are starting from scratch and want to start training. So I've got 3 little tips, and each of those have some subcategories that I will talk about in deeper. But if you have something that you want me to touch base on a lot more, please reach out to me on Instagram. That's Sean.momentum. And if you happen to want something that will help you with this, please listen all the way through to the end of this podcast, because we have a special giveaway and a gift that will probably solve every single problem that you have that I'm going to cover today. So if you are an absolute beginner, there are a few things that you're probably lost on. What program should I do? What's the best exercise? What's the best rep ranges? And we're going to start exactly with this part right here, the training aspect. Now, for those of you out there who are looking to train, if you're walking into the gym with absolutely no plan, no idea, and hopefully this isn't to a lot of you, because there should be no excuses with the amount of information that we have, you should be making sure you have a program and you stick to it. Now, it's easier said than done, because everyone can grab programs from bodybuilding.com to Instagram and, well, being 2023, TikTok as well. So the one thing I'm going to say to you is not going to be the typical stick to a program. This is what you need to do. Not yet. The bigger question I'm going to ask you is, why wouldn't you stick to the program? What do you have to lose by sticking to this program? Now, for most people, you've heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out. The fear of missing out because someone else is doing something. But let's flip that around now. What about the fear of actually gaining something? Are you actually scared to gain benefit from sticking to this program? If you stick to this program, the worst case scenario is, yes, you may not get the results that you're expecting, but the best case scenario is you're going to learn from it. And I've been teaching a lot of people, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and you're probably expecting me to talk about sets and reps and what the best exercises are and what's going to boost your metabolism. But the bigger thing is, you can't lose if you always look for the learning outcome. So if you stick to a program and you don't get the results, you're going to have to think back and go, okay, this is the hard stuff. Why am I not getting the progress that I want to? Is it because I didn't push myself? Is it because I wasn't consistent? Is it because I wasn't eating well despite training hard? These are good questions to ask yourself. Then on top of that, be open to actually accepting what changes need to be done. So if you stuck to the program, if you stuck to the nutrition plan, and you still didn't get the progress you did, maybe you need to ask yourself, was my expectations of myself too high for the time period that I'm in? Now let's start talking about the other things that everyone actually wants to hear about programs. When you're sticking to a program, there's a few things that you need to be attentive of. And I've written all of these on my notes because I want this podcast to be stuck into the forever world of podcasting and help a lot of people out there. The first thing is, are you actually getting stronger? Now, I know it may seem silly, but I'm going to say that there are no stupid questions out there. I want people to learn this. If you are doing an exercise, say for example a dumbbell chest press, and you are doing 3 or 4 kilos, in the next 6 weeks to 7 weeks, if you're still doing 3 to 4 kilos without progressing the weight with good technique, you're not going to make much progress. Getting stronger will get you so much further. Even if you're looking to lose weight, tone muscle, shape your body, you need to be having a strong baseline. So if you're doing 3 or 4 kilos in week 1, and week 7 and week 8 you're still doing 3 or 4 kilos, reflect. It's not the program, it's just making sure that you need to know how to push yourself to get stronger. The next thing is thinking less about muscles and thinking about movements. So when you're doing exercises like squats, for example, especially for the beginners out there, don't think about the thighs as much. Don't think about where your back is, to a certain extent, because you don't want to be upside down. You want to think about the movement. Can I press through my feet and then my knees and then my hips? Can I not lose balance? Are my feet always connected with the floor? Same thing with the bench pressing. And ladies, you should be bench pressing. Is the bar touching my shirt? Can I push it nice and fast on the way up? Is it smooth? Where does it get stuck? Maybe I need to focus on this portion of the movement more because it tends to get stuck in this motion. These are going to be more important factors for you when it comes to exercise. Because if you're listening to this and you're brand new, think movements, less about muscles. And it's funny, coming from a background of training more advanced people, I tend to think less about muscles and more about movements too. So somewhere in between, we need to think about movements, then we think about muscles, then we go back to movements. And your mindset shift will change depending on what season of your experience levels that you are in your training career. I shouldn't say training career for people out there because I don't think anyone's professionally doing this, but that's the terminology I'm going with for today. Think about practice. So we're talking about the movements, then we're talking about getting stronger as well. When I have changed my mindset from training to practicing, things become so much more clearer. I'm not so good at that movement just yet. I'm going to spend some more time investing on practicing that movement, and guess what? Practice needs to be relatively hard for you to progress. Because if you were playing a piano and you kept pressing that A button, you're not going to get any better. But when you start doing your scales from A to B, B to C, C to C sharp, I just made those up by the way because I never played piano. But if you start to practice those chords and then those scales, it starts to make more sense on how you can start playing songs. So when you're trying to play or trying to do a workout, think of the whole workout as a song. Think of each rep as a note, and think of each set as a chord or a scale. Then as you start to accomplish one thing at a time in practicing, you eventually get to complete the whole workout with proficiency, and that's what happens when you start to learn a song. Now believe it or not out there, this is a very side note. I was not a piano player, so I don't know where that analogy came from. I gave up after 2 weeks, being 7 years old. But growing up, I did play the flute. You wouldn't have thought that. I don't think anyone did. I should have put that as a poll. Anyway, what we're going to talk about now is the nutrition part. Because training after a while becomes, practice. Practice becomes progression. But when it comes to food, this is the one thing I tend to see with a lot of people. The first thing is you have to be honest. Be honest with yourself. What are you willing to change to make sure you can get to where you need to be? Now, first and forefront, being a personal trainer for 10 years, I am also a certified nutritional coach through Precision Nutrition. I want people to understand I don't expect you to have the tightest nutritional diet out there. You're not supposed to be 100% to the T. And as Precision Nutrition says, they like to invest in deep health. I never called it deep health when I first started. I called it being a real human. And that's understanding when you are allowed to give yourself permission to enjoy food. But knowing these emotional triggers is going to be super important. If you're stressed and you're eating a cheeseburger because you're stressed, you're treating your cheeseburger like it's a cigarette. Yeah, you might look at people who are smoking and go, I don't do that. But if you're stress eating, it's probably about the same effect. So start to think about yourself, because food is the most accessible thing that we can use for pleasure, pain, relief, whatever it might be. Now the next thing is when you are starting to always buy food out, you need to start to ask yourself, is this going to be actually nutritional and also beneficial to the goal that I have? Because as much as people like to say, and this is myself being guilty too, back in the day we had the old if it fits your macros diets, and it was like eat junk food because it's no bad things and no good things. But 100% I can tell you this right now, if you're eating processed foods versus non-processed foods, you'll feel a ton different. Processed foods, and I mean heavily processed foods, won't give you as much energy as you would like to think you could. Whereas whole foods will definitely give you more energy. And trust me on this, try it out for 2 weeks, you're going to feel a big difference. But saying that, like I mentioned, the deep health and also convenience, if you happen to be in a place where, let's just talk about McDonald's because that's probably a global brand. If I said Hungry Jack's, people would be like, what's that? Because it's only acceptable in Australia to say that. But in McDonald's, you can still make better decisions because if that's the only thing, we need to work with the best that we've got. So you could get the double quarter pounder with cheese if you really wish to, but there are better options too. I'm not saying go get the salad because that has near to no energy in terms of vegetables and some chicken. But if you could also think about the chicken wraps or the grilled chicken wraps versus the crispy chicken wraps, or should you get 2 grilled chicken wraps versus a grilled chicken wrap with large fries and a full sugar Coke? There's always going to be something that's a better decision for yourself. Now, when it comes to nutrition, I would love for this to be the gold standard. Cook more and start to aim for more wholesome based foods. And try and keep that as consistent as possible. Now, for beginners out there, this is going to be the tricky part. What if you don't cook? Look into some frozen foods if you can. And I mean, look at the good stuff, not just stuff that you find, in your local grocery stores and it's full of cheese, but actually look at the healthier versions. And I believe that if not everywhere in the world, you can get these. In little old lonely Perth, where I'm from, there are several small-based companies that actually do healthy, whole-based foods, and they actually cook them, and then they actually deliver out for food prep. Now, this is a booming industry for most people, and if you look for the solutions, you'll find them. Now, local grocery stores now these days are also very health conscious with this. If you head over to, say, we have Woolworths and we also have Coles. Those are our grocery stores in Australia, by the way. These places actually have fit foods in the frozen aisles. And although they may not be the best in terms of trying to cook your food, of course, they're still better than most things that you can think of. For example, in Coles, they have their fit naked burrito bowls. And these ones have something like 10 grams of fat, 30 grams of protein, 15 grams of carbs. Like I said, not overall very filling. But if you supplement that with, say, some microwave rice, with some vegetables, might I add, you've got yourself a pretty good meal that is better than what most people go and go, oh, look, I can't do anything about this. I'm going to go get a cheeseburger down the road instead. Think about your options and see what's going to be out there for you. If you're open to change, you'll start to see what the changes and choices that you have can actually be made. Now you're probably thinking, Sean, a lot of the things that you're talking about is just a little bit more beyond health and fitness. It's true. I have been spending a little bit more time these last few months talking about deeper, meaningful reasons why we make changes. And to be honest, this is with anything that you've done. And I'm going to really show you what I mean by this. So if you really pay attention to it, you're going to have some glass shattering moments. They're going to make you question why you do or do not do things at all. So the first thing I'm going to say is, what season in your life are you in? Now, if you're listening to this, you've either gone through it or going through it right now, where you may have graduated from your skills or you're trying to progress into a career path. Now, I've been through there. I went through uni for a long time and I had no money because of this. And then I started to try to invest into my health and fitness. And when you get to that point where you're trying to climb your career, it gets stressful. So what season are you in? If you are in a season of trying to really hustle for your career, understand that you probably can't make the larger decision. This meaning, like, I probably wouldn't try and prep for a bodybuilding competition if I was still a bodybuilding competitor. I probably wouldn't try and strive for a 20-kilo weight loss. I'd try and strive for smaller things like consistent walks and training 2 times a week. So for yourself, where are you in your season? If you are pretty used to it and you start to build a tolerance to your lifestyle too, so getting adjusted to your season of your life where you're working a career and it's been 3 months, maybe in 3 months' time, you can start to increase the amount of training sessions. If you're getting used to it, then maybe you need to work with something small and tangible. This could be step goals. This could be going to the gym just twice a week. This could be just eating lunch that you've prepped 1 day per week of the weekday. This could be also reducing the amount of alcohol that you have per week. If you're going from 6 per week to 3 per week, you still made a 50% increase and working closer towards your goal. So find out what your season in your life is. If you happen to be in a point where you can accept you can do 6 training sessions per week, which I don't recommend, by the way, I really don't recommend that. But if you're in that season, go for it. But if you're not in the season to be able to do 4 days a week, 5 days a week, just go with 1 day a week, go with 2 days a week, and add something small later on. The next thing I'm going to ask is, have you done this? Have you done this before? Now, if you're a person who has trained before and you've assessed your season of your life and it's the same, you need to ask yourself, is this actually sustainable? I've known people who've trained 5 days a week and go, yeah, I used to train 5 days a week, and then they make it work, white knuckling themselves through to it with a different season of life, and guess what? In 2 weeks' time, they burn out. So guess what? That doesn't work. You need to change your method to the season that you're in and seeing how you can do this. I'm going to ask you one more time. Have you actually done this before? What I mean by this time is, what have you mastered in your life? Like I said to some of the people out there, maybe you've graduated in uni or vocational school or something where you've upskilled yourself. Some people have learned different languages, learned to cook, they've mastered photography. Whatever it might be, you've mastered a skill or in a higher pursuit. Maybe health and fitness is not the number one thing that you've mastered yet. But now you got to try and take that mindset to where you are right now with health and fitness. I trained an Italian teacher, and she's 100% fluent despite the fact not being Italian at all. I asked her, how long did it take for you to actually master Italian? She goes, actually, I don't think I've mastered it. I think I'm very good at it. Oh, cool. So you've been a teacher for at least 15 to 20 years. Yes. How many mistakes did you make? She goes, oh, when I first started, I could barely piece sentences together. I said, this is no different from what you're doing right now with health and fitness. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. But if you accept the fact that when you make a mistake speaking Italian in a different language, you're going to be able to also learn from it. And this is the same thing that we do with eating our foods, training a little bit, knowing which exercises work for us, failing a few exercises, failing a few sets and struggling through it. But at the other end, you're going to get the most benefit. And I have another close friend of mine who I'm working with, and she and I want to create something for you guys out there, and I have to keep this under secrets. But there's a lot of fear on, would it work? But we shifted the mindset of, if it doesn't work, we've learnt something from this. Then we can understand that all it is just another hurdle for us to learn more, to get better. And I want you guys to learn this too. So I hope this episode actually helped you out. I think this is one of the ones that I really enjoy talking about, especially for those beginners out there, because a lot of beginners will want to go, hey, look, I want to lose 10 kilos. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's healthy. But there's so many more deeper, meaningful reasons why we do things. And coming from someone who's been doing this for 15 years, I know for myself that I also have self-doubt. I know that it's hard. But once I hit my goals, to be honest, if I'm absolutely honest right there, I'm still not satisfied. Because now the feeling is, okay, I actually enjoyed the journey of pursuing the goal more than actually getting to the goal. So for yourselves out there, yes, you might be really wanting to lose some weight or get stronger and lift this weight here, and you feel great about it. But then you start to look back and you go, actually, I think the journey was actually a lot more fun than getting to that point. Because once you get to that point, no matter what it is, you gain so much more from going through those steps than actually getting there itself. And some people want to bypass that journey and just get straight to the goal. And guess what happens? They start to go back to them old selves because they haven't actually made those developmental changes to get there. Bad eating habits, bad exercise habits, not actually understanding how the lifestyle to sustain what they wanted was there. They haven't actually built the callus of life, so to speak. So if you listened all the way through to this, I just want to say thank you so much. Before I give you this little present that I want to give to you, I want to talk about it. It's something that I've been working on for a while because I want to keep developing it over time. And this is the Momentum Hourglass program. This Hourglass program is a great place to start for many ladies out there who want to be able to build their glutes, hamstrings, and also their back muscles, but start to actually build resilience and also start to feel strong and confident too. That was the biggest outcome that I wanted out of it. People to start feeling strong, and ladies especially with, fear of going to the gym. You now have a program, you now have a plan that you can practice. There are some nutritional guidelines that you can work with along the way as well. And this is going to be absolutely free for the first 50 people. So at this point in time of recording, I'm not sure how many spaces I have left. So I just don't want you to miss out. So whatever you do, head over to the link in my bio or link in this description box for this podcast and click the link to actually register for it. If I'm not wrong, it's free.momentum-active/hourglass. And if I got it wrong, head over to my Instagram. It's @sean.momentum. Click the link and register. I hope you get a free copy because, once again, I just want to help ladies out there feel strong and confident. Now, if you really enjoyed this podcast, if you absolutely found this useful or you listen to it frequently, please give me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. It's hard for people out there to get good information, and I'm doing this for the better of trying to really encourage ladies out there to get stronger without the fad diets. So please, if you can, give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can also do this too. You can rate the show and give it a 5-star as well. Those are the two platforms that I'm really trying to push this podcast. If you can't do either of those things, just share it with some friends on a private message or conversation, especially if they're accountability buddies with you as well. Hopefully they will enjoy it too, and we just want to grow this community. Other than that, everyone, I just want you to have a great time going to the gym, learning something new about yourself, and I hope you guys keep building momentum. #momentum is key. Take care, everyone.